You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Steven Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. He is Daylan Flowers from the Rebel Walk, and he is an alumni of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast channel as well. Daylan, before we get started, I do want to congratulate you. You had an interview that got posted with Austin Simmons. How did that go, and where can people find it?
It went really well, man. You can find the full interview on the Rebel Walk YouTube channel. So just search up the Rebel Walk on your YouTube site. It's about a 15-minute long interview. Austin was really cool. I feel like we had a lot of similarities. We're kind of just both chill and laid back, but also have a pretty good mindset from devoted and I would love to say strict parents. But Austin was really cool. The way he talked, I feel like I was talking to a 30-year-old NFL vet that's been playing in the league for 15 years. But Austin really has a good head on his shoulders. We had a few laughs, and I got to depict not only the Georgia game for him and what went into that moment, but as well just dive deep into a little bit of him, his father and how important his father has been to him in his lifetime, why he chose Ole Miss and what has now continued to be a great decision for him, and coming to Oxford, and as well just what he expects for the rest of this year and next year when presumably it will be his program and he will have the keys to the football team.
Yeah, and he has Caleb Cunningham walking through that door as well. So
we talked about that as well.
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Daylan, Florida Gators this weekend in the Swamp. It's a road game. It's a game that before the season I said Ole Miss had 3 traps and Florida was on that list. Florida is good enough to beat you, and I think everybody that is watching this needs to understand that. They're not necessarily a good football team.
Yeah.
They're a young team, but there's 15 or so players on this Florida roster that are on the Senior Bowl watch list at the moment.
Absolutely, man. What's fascinating to me about Florida in the LSU game, this Florida team sat Garrett Nussmeier 7 times. And numbers-wise, LSU has been the best offensive line team in the SEC throughout the season. And you look at how Nussmeier just really struggled against the pressure. But I'll bring up another stat to you, man. Florida's actually second to last in the conference defensively in defense efficiency. But that proves the point that when that defensive line is clicking like they were yesterday, and that accumulates to putting the offense of DJ Lagway in great positions, Florida can put some points up and can win a football game. I will say I'm really, really happy that this is not a night game in Gainesville. Like you said, I do look at this as a trap game. I think, before the season started, everyone was looking at Florida's schedule and like, whoa, how are they going to manage, especially in that last stretch of the season, manage to even maybe scrape by with 1 win. And now DJ Lagway has basically been given the keys to the team by Billy Napier. And I think as well, him kind of being a little bit more free with the news a couple weeks ago with him being able to return next year has allowed them to get a little bit more creative and just do things that maybe he didn't think he was able to do at the time. But now that, he's a little bit more free and DJ's kind of the presumed guy out there, this offense is clicking and they seem to really lock and load with DJ behind the line of scrimmage. And he looks to be really experienced, although this is, his first year and he hasn't really played that much, but it's going to be a fun game. And I think it's going to be one on the line of scrimmage. I think you can look back to our 2 losses against LSU and Kentucky. And obviously the play calling on the offensive side were deceivable, but as well, those 2 games, our offensive line really struggled. And I'm really proud of our offensive line and John Garrison over the last 2 weeks, really getting it together penalties wise and just playing together as a group and as well getting healthy. But those 2 losses, I watched our offensive line struggle from the moment the game started until the clock hit 000s. And, we got to be able to protect Jackson Dart this weekend if we want to have any chance of coming out of Gainesville with the win.
Yeah, and if you look at the Texas game 2 weeks ago, as far as Florida's defense, the offense is going to be completely different because Lagway's back. But Texas kind of had their way offensively on that Florida secondary. And Ole Miss is getting back, likely, Trey Harris in this game. And as long as Ole Miss doesn't revert back to what the game plan was the early part of the season and just kind of incorporate Trey Harris into what is working right now at Ole Miss, Florida could be in a tight spot trying to stop this Ole Miss offense.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if, especially in maybe the first half of the game, that we just simply use Trey Harris as more of a decoy than that superstar type of receiver that he is. And I love that you bring that point up. I truly believe that, obviously I don't not want to see Trey Harris out there as long as he's been gone since the LSU game. I want presumably best player on the field. But we watched this team play with him up until the LSU game, throughout the LSU game, and it just seemed so one dimensional. And then in the second half against Oklahoma, after a really strikingly bad first half, I watched the offense regroup, open up the playbook a little bit, use the middle of the field a lot better, and get more creative, especially on the outside parts of the line of scrimmage. And then they continue to do that against Arkansas, creating a deep ball threat, and as well using the tight ends effectively like Daquan Wright. Did that against Georgia as well, using Caden Lee, who's been substantially elite this year, might I add, and using a lot of great out routes as well. The offense has really been opened up really well since Trey has been gone, and I think his absence has obviously been missed, but it also has allowed this offense to develop a bit of confidence that, hey, don't worry about the noise that we couldn't do this without Trey. We've done this without Trey, not consistently against teams that have really good defenses. And now that should boost our confidence with Trey coming back to say, okay, now we've got our guy back. Now we have our big play guy back. Now we can really, really do some damage with the final 2 games of the season, and hopefully as well moving into that playoff push.
That whole saying, don't wreck the Ferrari whenever you have a really high powered offense and you're just trying to make it work. This is a little bit of the opposite of that. This is kind of that driver that had a really good mid-level, mid-gear car, and all of a sudden he's being called up to F1 whenever you're getting Trey Harris. And you just want to keep the car in between the lines, and you want to utilize and do the things that you do really well. Because when Trey Harris gets back, and we're going to talk after this break about Logan Diggs, I mean, there's a ton of stuff for Ole Miss football wise that is very, very, very much what they want.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you were discussing a lot throughout the offseason, just with the talent that we acquired in the transport and the talent we were bringing back from last year's team. It was like, this is undoubtedly the best receiving room in the country with all this talent. Who can really stop this team? And I wholeheartedly believe no one really stopped this offense this year. We stopped ourselves. And throughout the absence of Trey Harris, we found an identity within that, and we fully have adapted to how great this offense can be. And it's honestly just amazing for me, because that's what was so frustrating about the 2 losses, that I know we have so much great talent on this team. And we have a quarterback that has been in this system for 3 years now. We have a running back that is very elusive. We have receivers that are great route runners, can catch and make deep balls. But we weren't seeing the totality of the use of all the talent out there. And we've been seeing that over the last 3 weeks. And even with some injuries, we've still seen that really well. And now we get Trey back. I don't want to revert to that one-dimensional type of offense we were seeing, just directly playing through Trey every single time. And don't get me wrong, I mean, the guy's elite. I mean, still leading the country in receiving yards while not playing a single game in almost a full month is ridiculous. I mean, he would be in the Heisman candidacy race if he hadn't got hurt. But at the same time, I have to take it with a grain of salt, because I don't know how we would have played over the last 3 games if we continue with the same game plan like we had going with Trey. So I hope Trey comes back in healthy and ready to go, but I also hope we continue to see the same type of game plan we've seen within this offense since the Oklahoma game.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first and listen of the day. When we come back, Logan Diggs could be about to be making his debut in the Swamp this weekend. We'll talk about that. And we'll get into the college football playoff rankings coming up tomorrow night as well. Stick around for that. Football fans, listen up. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate fan isn't just a pastime, it's a way of life. It takes serious energy to power through all-day tailgates, intense touchdown celebrations, or let's be honest, the stress of that double overtime game. That's why we've created Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shots, featuring a flavor made just for fans like us, Fan Fuel. Whether you're in the first in the Grove or the last one out, the 5 Hour Energy Shots can give you what you need. You know what gave me fan fuel this week? Thinking about that Georgia win. I've been thinking about that for 2 weeks, if we're going to be honest. But with a huge matchup coming up against the Florida Gators, I am already gearing up. Whether it's tailgating with friends or rocking my brand new Ole Miss jersey, fan fuel is the boost I need to match my team's energy. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan takes heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. From prepping for tailgates to ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is a mile long. That's why Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to keep you fueled all season long. It's what your fan fuel needs this week. Whatever it is, tackle it with 5 Hour Energy. Available now at 5hourenergy.com and shipped nationwide. And Game Time is your place to get Ole Miss tickets with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Ole Miss tickets. You know, there's not a bad seat in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, and there's not a way that you can go through the ticket office and get into the Egg Bowl at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. But Game Time might have that for you. They have views from your seat. There's not a bad seat in there, but you can see exactly what you will see from that seat on Game Time before you buy the tickets. They have the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. They take the guesswork out of buying Ole Miss tickets with Game Time. And with this being the most anticipated season in Ole Miss history, I might even be able to help you out with tickets as well. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So, Daylan, one little surprise that we got today, and before the Georgia game, Lane Kiffin was asked about Logan Diggs, and he said, hey, after the bye week, we might have a chance or something like that, but he wasn't playing against Georgia. So, of course, the first question he got in the press conference yesterday or today was, is Logan Diggs going to be ready to play? And Logan Diggs, the rumor is he's fully dressed out and practicing. He's working towards getting in game shape. I do not know how much he's going to play, but it feels like we're going to get to see a number 22 running back sitting out on the field for Ole Miss in the Swamp.
I'm super excited, man. One part of I thought the offense for Ole Miss was struggling this year is we really couldn't convert in the red zone. And that's something that's picked up really well over the last few weeks. But in the early part of the season, we were really struggling in the red zone. And even LSU, watching the Florida game, they struggled just getting points on the board. They had 3 drives that accumulated to be over 20 minutes, but only scored 6 points out of those 3 drives. I think Logan is 6'1", like 215, 216. The guy is a built young man, and when we get in those red zone type situations, I feel comfortable with him in the backfield and getting us a first down on a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1 if needed as well, going get into the red zone, getting 6 points for the offense. I'm excited about Logan as well because he brings a bit of experience from LSU and Notre Dame as well that you really aren't really able to find from too many guys still playing in college football. So he's going to be able to, health-wise, of course, but he's going to be able to see the game really well and just see gaps really well and see the holes he needs to hit really well because he's been at this for a while and he's seen defenses from all over. He's played against defenses that have been in the SEC level, and he's been ready, I think, for this moment for a long time. It's obviously just accumulates to how healthy he will be. I'm just excited to see us at least give him a go with the injuries we've kind of been based on in the running back room and just all the nonstop kind of talk and drama about the running back room throughout the entire season. I think Logan will be able to just be a bit of fresh air for us on the offensive side of the ball. He's also not a really bad receiver as for a running back as well. So he may bring a little bit of totality out for, having Dart, dump off a quick short pass if needed when there's nobody open downfield. So I'm excited to see Logan Diggs. I think this is really going to give us our offense a chance to fully restore how good we can be, and we're getting healthy at the right time. This is the point of the season. 2 games left to finish out the season with. Hopefully, you win out, you take care of business. We're more than likely have the best chance to still get into the playoffs, which is the goal, and hopefully host a playoff game. But I couldn't be happier that he is now getting back. Like you said last week, and us kind of talking, this bye week after the Georgia game really could not have come at a better time for our football team.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good news is with Logan Diggs is if he plays, he can play the last 6 games of the season. Yep. He's not going to burn a red shirt.
Yep.
So he is likely going to be back at Ole Miss next season
Mhm.
as the number one running back and with Shakai Mills-Knight.
Yeah.
This offense in 2025 looks like it could be a lot of fun, Daylan.
Yeah, and I talked to Austin Simmons about that, and he could just kind of mentioned that, especially since the Georgia game and just the amount of recruits we've kind of got in, it's going to be exciting because we're losing a lot of this team this year, which is a sad bit, but it's also an exciting part to see what the coaching staff will be able to do recruiting wise to help revitalize what the team will need to be great about around Austin Simmons. But man, I think we've done a great job recruiting, and I think people may be looking and saying, wow, we're going to be losing a lot. But I'm just as stoked for next season as I am this season. I think Austin has really turned the heads of a lot of people for him coming in that Georgia game, literally changes the entire momentum of that game, goes down there, we score on that drive with a run by Ulysses Bentley. And I think people are now truly stoked to see his true and full capabilities next year as well.
Yeah, it should be pretty good. And tomorrow we will find out the This Week fake.
Yeah.
We'll be doing a live reaction show at, I think, 7 Eastern, 6 Central of the college football playoff ranking. So tune into the channel for that. Daylan, you're more than welcome to join if you want to pop in as well. But where do you think that they're going to handle Ole Miss in that situation?
Kirby Smart said after the Tennessee game that he really doesn't know what the committee thinks or how they think, and I'm kind of in that same position. I would probably say 9 or 10, and I'm okay with that, honestly. I try not to play too much into it, especially not right now at this exact moment. I love the mindset that our team has had, and Austin Simmons mentioned this as well in our interview. Just their mindset is just going 1-0 every week and taking things one day at a time and getting 1% better every single day. And I love that. And I love that the Kiffin and the coaching staff has instilled that within the culture of the team. We can only control what we do on the football field at this point, and that's playing a great game and taking care of Florida. I think the South Carolina win for us, not only did we win that game, but we dominated Carolina. It looks really good for us. And as well that, we don't just beat Georgia, but we dominate Georgia. How can we go into Gainesville, shut that crowd out, and play Ole Miss football and hopefully dominate the Florida Gators and really just say, committee, you can't take a chance and not even think about putting us outside of the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, I think they're going to come out and try and front run. I think the Rebs are going to be good to go, and they should be able to score in this football game. Anyway, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Head on over to the Rebel Walk YouTube channel and check out that Austin Simmons interview in full. What do you got going on this week, bud?
Oh, man, just getting some final projects done and getting a little studying in. So this Thanksgiving break, I can kind of enjoy next week. And then when I come back after that, I'm a little bit prepared and not, being stressed out about my finals and stuff. But just taking care of some schoolwork and some events as well. But a little one of my slower weeks as well. So I'm trying to catch up on some rest as well.
Nice. Good job for you. And hope you enjoy actually just watching the game on TV this weekend if you're not going to the Swamp. But next week, the Egg Bowl has to be fun, man.
It will. It's actually, believe it or not, my first one. It's always been on Thanksgiving, so I've never attended the Egg Bowl since I've been here. And, being on Friday this year, actually family will be coming down to me for the game this year. So this will actually be my first Egg Bowl ever. So I'm super stoked for it and excited to see the absolute magnitude of the true rivalry within the two teams.
All right, Daylan, man. Thank you very much, bud. And we'll talk to you later.
All righty. Howdy toddy, y'all.